My father didn't ask, he commanded. 3 sharp knocks hit my door like gunshots in a courtroom. When I opened it, Richard Hayes, my father, the man who once called me his pride, stood there holding a folder thick with guilt and numbers. "I need the money tomorrow," he barked, shoving it into my hands. 800,000. It's Madison's debt, and no delays. 800,000. My sister's mistake. My father's order. My silence. I smiled just enough to make him uneasy. "Okay," I said. 4 hours later, I was rolling a suitcase through the quiet terminal, the sound of my heels echoing like a verdict. I wasn't running away. I was setting the stage. When my father came to collect the money the next day, he found my door locked and a single box waiting on the porch. Inside was everything he'd taught me, and everything he'd lose because of it. He stood in my living room like he owned the air itself. Richard Hayes, my father, the man who could make a room smaller just by breathing. The smell of his cologne hit first. Expensive, suffocating, a relic from his successful years. Behind him, my sister Madison hovered, eyes wide, face pale, playing the part of the helpless daughter she'd perfected long ago. "Olivia," my father began, dropping my name like a gavel. "You've done well. You've made a lot of money. It's time you remember who you made it for." I folded my arms. I didn't realize success came with a repayment plan. He ignored the jab, pulling out a folder and slapping it onto my marble counter. 800,000. Madison and Tyler owe it. You'll wire it by noon tomorrow. I blinked slowly. "You're joking." "Do I look like I'm joking?" His jaw clenched. "These are serious people. If she doesn't pay, they'll come after her and after me." "Then, maybe you shouldn't have guaranteed her loan," I said evenly. His glare could have stripped paint. "Don't get smart with me, Liv. Family comes first." Madison stepped closer, her voice soft and trembling, a melody she knew I couldn't stand. "Please, Liv. We have kids. Tyler just made a bad deal. We'll pay you back." I laughed once, sharp and humorless. "You said that last time." "This time is different," she insisted, twisting her wedding ring like a rosary. Dad slammed his palm against the counter. "Enough. You'll transfer the money. You've got it. You wouldn't let your sister's children suffer unless you've forgotten what it means to be family." Family. The word landed like poison. I stared at the two of them, the father who turned guilt into currency, and the sister who spent it freely. Then I smiled, a small, unsettling curve of lips. "Fine," I said quietly. "Tomorrow at noon." They both sighed in relief, mistaking surrender for compliance. Madison hugged me lightly, rehearsed, and my father patted my shoulder as if he'd just closed another business deal. When the door shut behind them, the silence in the house changed shape. It wasn't empty, it was alive. I sat down, opened the folder, and looked at the debt. $800,000. Tyler's gambling receipts, Madison's designer statements, my father's signature at the bottom of it all. My smile widened. "Tomorrow at noon," I whispered. "Perfect." There's a family photo hanging in my father's study, framed in gold, lit by a spotlight he installed himself. In it, Madison is smiling like she invented happiness. My father stands tall behind her, and I'm off to the side, cropped slightly by the frame. That photo says everything you need to know about us. Growing up, I learned early that love in our house came with conditions. Madison cried, and Dad fixed it. I succeeded, and he warned me not to show off. When Mom died, he didn't fall apart, he just redirected every ounce of his grief into protecting Madison, the fragile one. I was the strong one, the responsible daughter, which really meant the one we can drain without breaking. I paid for Madison's college when Dad couldn't. I helped cover their wedding when Tyler's startup crashed. I even bought their first house, though the deed sat quietly in my LLC, not their names. Every favor was another knot in a rope I didn't realize I was tightening around my own throat. Dad always said, "Family first." But in his language, family meant Madison first. The more I built my own life, my consulting firm, my apartment overlooking downtown, the more he looked at me like I was betraying him by standing on my own. Independence was an insult. Self-respect, an act of rebellion. So when he slammed that folder on my counter last night, I saw more than debt. I saw a pattern. I saw the way he'd used love as leverage for years, and the way Madison had learned to weaponize her weakness. I poured myself a glass of water and stared out the window at the city lights, wondering how many other daughters had become their family's safety net, how many women like me had been trained to call it duty. $800,000. A sister who wouldn't change, a father who wouldn't stop, and me, the daughter who finally would. By the time the clock struck midnight, my decision was made. The next time my father knocked on my door, he wouldn't find a daughter. He'd find consequences. By sunrise, the plan was already unfolding in my head like muscle memory I didn't know I had. Years of watching my father play power games had taught me something. Control isn't loud. It's silent, calculated, and timed to the minute. I opened my laptop and logged into 3 accounts: personal, business, and one I'd opened quietly under a different LLC. Madison and Dad thought I was just a finance girl. They never realized I'd built entire empires out of other people's chaos. First step: secure what's mine. I froze the joint trust Dad had quietly attached his name to last year. Just for convenience. The convenience was over. Next, I transferred my personal funds to a new private account, disconnected from every family entity. Then, I called Laura Bennett, my attorney and oldest ally. "Tell me you're finally doing it," she said, half asleep but already awake. "I'm done financing their mistakes," I replied. "Good. Do you want quiet or dramatic?" I smiled. "Both." Within an hour, she'd executed every instruction we'd planned months ago, back when I'd first confessed I was considering cutting ties. Title transfers, power of attorney cancellations, revoking signatory rights. Each click was a small freedom signed in pixels. Then came the box. A simple cardboard box, the kind you'd use to move apartments or hide ghosts. Inside, I began to build my message. A copy of every wire transfer to Madison and Tyler. Screenshots of every desperate text from Dad. The deed to Madison's dream home under my name. And a single cashier's check for $10,000. On top, I placed a handwritten note. "You always said family comes first, Dad. But maybe family should come honest first. What you'll find inside isn't revenge, it's a receipt." I sealed it with clear tape, the sound sharp in the quiet room. Then I booked a flight to Maine. One way. As the confirmation email pinged my inbox, a calm I hadn't felt in years spread through me. For once, I wasn't the solution. I was the consequence. By 9 a.m., my suitcase was packed: passport, laptop, a single photograph of Mom and me at the lake. 4 hours from now, my father would be pounding on this same door, demanding money. He'd find only silence, and a box with his name on it. The city was still half asleep when I pulled out of the driveway. Dawn smeared the horizon in pale orange, the kind of light that makes everything look clean, even the past. My suitcase sat on the passenger seat, humming softly with every turn. Inside it, there were no heirlooms, no trophies, no reminders of what I used to call home, just essentials and freedom zipped tight. The airport was almost empty. Businessmen moved like ghosts, clutching briefcases. Parents whispered over sleeping kids. No one looked at me twice, and I liked it that way. I was invisible, something my family had only ever pretended I was not. While waiting in line, I glanced at my phone. 10 missed calls from Dad, 4 from Madison. One message. "Dad, remember who made you who you are." I turned off the screen. For once, I didn't need reminders. Security was quick. The officer smiled, asked where I was headed. "Maine," I said, "starting over." He nodded like he'd heard that before. Maybe he had. At the gate, I ordered coffee stronger than my conscience and watched the sunrise cut across the windows. The last time I'd flown anywhere, it was for Madison's wedding, a weekend of smiles built on overdrafts and denial. Now, I was flying toward silence. When they called boarding, I didn't look back at the terminal. I didn't want to see if anyone was running through it with my name on their tongue. In the small airplane window, the world folded beneath me. The houses, the roads, the weight of expectation. I thought of my father standing in my living room hours from now, confident, impatient, ready to collect. He'd knock, he'd shout, then he'd see the box. I imagined his hand trembling as he opened it, the The sharp gasp when he realized the story had changed, and for once, he wasn't the author. As the plane climbed through the clouds, I let out a long breath I didn't know I'd been holding. No more guilt, no more saving, only sky. At exactly 12:03 p.m., my doorbell camera blinked to life. I watched the footage later, sitting on a rented porch in Maine, coffee trembling in my hand. There he was, my father, Richard Hayes, standing on my front step like a man born to own every inch of ground he walked on. His tie was perfect, his expression wasn't. He was angry. Angry men don't knock, they announce. "Olivia!" he barked, pounding the door. "Open up! We had a deal." Madison hovered behind him, clutching her designer bag as if it could protect her from reality. She whispered, "Maybe she's out?" But even her voice sounded unsure. Then Dad saw the box. A plain, brown box, with his name scrawled in black marker. He frowned, bending to open it like curiosity could still be his ally. The tape ripped, the flaps opened. Silence. Then, a rustle of paper. He froze. "What the hell is this?" Madison leaned closer, confused. "What's inside?" "Records," he muttered, flipping pages. His breath hitched when he saw the first entry. Mortgage transfer, Hayes Residence Oakline Holdings. Olivia Hayes, owner. He scanned faster dates, payments, signatures, even his own forged authorization for a line of credit he'd opened in my name. Each line peeled another layer of his pride. "Olivia," he said my name like a curse, like it had teeth. Then came the USB drive. He held it up, confused, slid it into the small speaker I'd left on the porch, and my voice filled the air. "Dad, you taught me that family comes first. You just never taught me how to survive being the only one who meant it. What's inside this box isn't revenge, it's the truth. And the truth has receipts." Madison gasped. "She recorded us?" He didn't answer. He was staring at the photo I'd left on top, the two of us at the lake, before everything turned into transactions. His fingers shook. Then came the note, my handwriting clean and calm. "If you ever loved me for who I am, not for what I can fix, you'll stop knocking on my door and start looking in a mirror." For the first time in my life, I saw him break. Not yell, not threaten, not lecture, just break. His shoulders fell. The box dropped from his hands. Madison started crying, not for me, but for herself. "What do we do now?" He didn't answer. He just whispered, "We lost her." Then he turned, stepped off my porch, and left the box behind. At that same moment, 1,400 miles away, I sat by the window of a quiet cafe, watching the tide rise, and whispered back, "No, you lost control." By the next morning, the silence had shattered. My phone new number, new SIM buzzed with updates from Laura, my attorney. Each message was short, clinical, surgical. "Laura, Hayes Supply Board voted emergency audit. You were right about the missing funds." "Laura," Madison called, screamed about betrayal, then asked if you'd still pay her rent. "Laura, they froze your father's company card. He's furious." I set the phone down, let the waves fill the gaps where family used to live. Back in Austin, the collapse began. Dad's business partners wanted answers. Madison's picture-perfect life started cracking under the glare of gossip. Screenshots of her social posts leaked vacations, luxury bags, financial hardship, hashtags. The comments turned venomous fast. "Must be nice to struggle in designer heels." Tyler disappeared first. A business trip to Las Vegas that no one believed. The creditors soon followed, polite but menacing men who knocked softly and spoke even softer. Madison tried to reach Dad, he ignored her. Pride and panic were now roommates in his chest. At 10 p.m., Laura called again. "You did what had to be done, but he's unraveling, Liv." "I know," I said quietly. "He needs to." Later that night, a video clip landed in my inbox, doorbell footage from Mrs. Morales across the street. Madison was standing on my porch again, under the porch light, makeup streaked, mascara smudged into confession. She held the box, screaming my name like it could rewind time. "Liv, we're family. You can't just vanish." Her voice cracked, then softened into something small. "Please, I don't know what to do. I closed the laptop. The sound of her pleading lingered longer than I wanted to admit. But I didn't cry. Not this time. Because this was the part no one ever teaches you. When you stop saving people, you have to watch them learn to swim, or sink. 2 days later, a message arrived from Laura again. Laura, your father resigned from Hayes Supply. Board replacing him with the VP. Clean exit. I reread it twice. Relief came in strange ways, quiet, thin, but real. For the first time in my life, my father's power no longer extended to my bank account, my conscience, or my heartbeat. I wasn't the good daughter anymore. I was the woman who finally made peace with being misunderstood. It was a week later when my phone rang again. Unknown number. I almost ignored it until instinct whispered his name. Olivia. My father's voice was quieter than I remembered, stripped of its usual authority. We need to talk. I hesitated. Why? Because I finally understand what you did. The air in my small rental room went still. You mean the box? I mean everything. He exhaled shakily. You embarrassed me, Liv, but you were right to. And, for a long moment, neither of us spoke. Somewhere outside, the main wind rattled the window pane like it wanted to eavesdrop. I can't fix this, he continued. Madison's furious. The company's gone. But for the first time, I'm seeing things clearly. You were never the problem. I was. I leaned back against the wall, closing my eyes. The man speaking wasn't the one who had ordered me around like an employee. He sounded human. Dad, I said carefully. I didn't want to destroy you. I know, he said. You wanted to wake me up. Consider me awake. His voice cracked. Do you know what Madison said to me yesterday? She asked who was going to save her now. And what did you tell her? I asked softly. He gave a hollow laugh. I told her she'd have to learn what saving herself feels like. I didn't respond right away. My heart ached, not with guilt, but with recognition. Maybe this was what healing looked like. Two people finally speaking, without the weight of money between them. I saw your mother in you that day, he said finally. When you smiled at me and said, okay, that calm, that was her. A lump rose in my throat. Mom wouldn't have let it go this far. No, he admitted, but she'd have been proud you did something I never could walk away. Silence stretched, soft but heavy. What now? I asked. I don't know, he said. Maybe we start by being honest. Maybe I stop pretending control is the same as love. I wanted to stay angry, but the truth broke something open inside me. For the first time, I heard regret in his voice. Not manipulation, not guilt, real remorse. I'll be in Maine for a while, I said, trying to remember who I was before all this. He chuckled faintly. Then, maybe one day, when you're ready, I'll visit without any folders or demands. Bring coffee, I said quietly. Not debt. He laughed a small, tired sound. Deal. When the call ended, I stared at the ocean beyond my window. The wind carried the scent of salt and new beginnings. For years, I thought freedom meant escape. But maybe it meant something simpler. A conversation without control. 3 months later, I found peace in the smallest things, the smell of coffee before sunrise, the sound of seagulls arguing outside my window, the way silence no longer felt like punishment. Maine had a way of washing people clean without asking permission. I'd started teaching financial literacy workshops at the local community center, just 10 women at first, all of them carrying their own versions of my story. The mother who always lent, the sister who always forgave, the daughter who always paid. When I spoke about boundaries and self-worth, I wasn't lecturing. I was confessing. Madison called one evening. Not crying this time, just tired. Dad's doing better, she said softly. He joined some kind of group. Accountability, I think. That's good, I replied. And me? She hesitated. I got a job. At a furniture store. Real one, not online. I smiled. You proud of yourself yet? Trying to be, she whispered. I didn't think starting over would feel this quiet. It's supposed to, I said. Quiet means you stopped running. Then she said something I hadn't heard in years. Thank you, Liv, for not rescuing me. When the call ended, I cried not from pain, but from the strange relief of finally letting go. Weeks later, My father sent a single postcard. A picture of a fishing dock, blue water, his handwriting small and uneven. You were right. I taught you everything about business and nothing about love. Learning now. Proud of you. Dad. I pinned it above my desk. That night, I walked down to the shoreline, the wind cold and forgiving. I thought about everything that had happened, the box, the flight, the fallout, the conversations that healed more than they hurt. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for anyone to knock on my door, because this time, the only thing on my porch was the sound of the sea, and the kind of freedom that doesn't need forgiveness to exist. True story.